Hey, what's up, nerds? It's Paul at Radio Free Hammer Hall. Today, we are going to talk about Path to Glory campaigns. Now, this is something that my local group has been doing for a while now. We do these on a fairly regular basis, and they're a lot of fun. They're a really interesting way to get everybody together to play games, and really, it's great for new players as well as veteran players. Everybody has fun. It's a little bit more of a relaxed and laid back way to play Age of Sigmar rather than just playing the traditional match play system. And it takes, a sec to escalation leagues. So with that in mind, I'm going to just sort of go over how Path to Glory leagues work, or how the campaigns work, as well as my thoughts on Path to Glory. And all of that is a primer to my group is starting a new Path to Glory campaign starting next Wednesday. And after I do this video explaining what Path to Glory is, I'm going to do a live roll-up of my starting warband. So just to kind of get started, I think it's important to talk about Path to Glory because it's sort of become like this running joke almost when a lot of folks on the internet talk about battle tomes. They're going through the new battle tome review. You have in your book, you have all the allegiance abilities, and then you have this Path to Glory crap in the middle that everybody sort of flips by and doesn't think about and then goes to the War Scrolls. And it's sort of become like this butt of a joke, but I think it's important that it's there because it's like, it's shoving that in your face. Like, this is how you can play the game too. And so I'm going to just kind of go over it. Basically, you're going to start with a small warband, usually a couple of units. You have a champion that is a hero model of some type from your army. That champion is going to be your general for the whole campaign. And along with that, depending on how you decide to set up the campaign, you can choose to or choose not to use artifacts and command traits. I think it's very important, especially if you're having a little bit bigger of a Path to Glory campaign, to basically have like somebody that's like the DM that's giving you guidance on all of this stuff, setting out scenarios to use, setting like a rules pack, like a tournament, so that everybody knows what to do going in. So one of those decision points is whether or not you use artifacts, whether or not you use command traits, whether or not you use spell lores and prayer lores from your book. Typically, we do use all of those things, as well as like the sub-faction abilities. Sometimes people will rather play without them. We always use them. We just like to have fun. So we're just like, all the things for your army. We're not going to hold it back in any way. The only thing that we usually throw out is battalions. It's a little bit difficult to, like, there's no way in Path to Glory to, like, in the book to get a battalion. So we just sort of say you can't use them. So that gets people out of certain ruts sometimes in their list building and how they go about things. So as I said, first thing you do is you pick your general. In your warband tables, in your battle tome, you will have a table of champions. You can choose to either roll dice for the champion or pick one. It's up to you. It's up to whoever is running your league. What we typically do is we will let you choose everything for your starting warband, and then after that, you have to roll dice for everything. For me, for this upcoming Path to Glory League, I decided, since I'm one of the more veteran players in our group, so instead of, power gaming like I ordinarily probably would, just out of instinct, I'm going to go completely the other direction and just let the dice decide. I'm going to roll for absolutely everything. And I'm going to be playing Nurgle. Got my Nurgle Battle Tome here. And I happen to own all of the models on the tables. So I think that's going to add an extra level of fun to it that, a lot of times, newer players, you'll roll something and oh, I don't own that unit. And you just re-roll. So for me, it's going to be I just get whatever hand I'm dealt out of the whole army. So it's going to be fun. So generally, your champions are usually going to be your non-unique heroes. And which champion you choose depends on, or will let you know how many additional units you get to take along with that for your starting warband. So, for example, in the Nurgle Tome, you can take a Great Unclean One as your champion. If you do that, you only get 2 more units. If you take, say, a Lord of Plagues, that was the one that I used for the last Path to Glory that I did with Nurgle, you get 4 instead of the 2 that you get with a Great Unclean One. Now, every battle tome is going to be different. I have not figured out yet if these are reasonably balanced over time in between battle tomes. Just experience tells me that it's pretty okay. It's very much just close enough. And that, I think, is kind of important. It's often being randomly thrown together of people with varying skill levels. It's very much designed to be narrative and have unusual things happen. Oftentimes what our the guy that runs our leagues, Dez, who has been on my channel many times, what he generally does is he has the open war deck. I don't know if you can actually get this anymore, but this is an awesome resource if you can pick it up. And he basically makes scenarios out of going through the open war cards. What the deployment is, what everything is, and then he makes up a nice packet for us each week of, here is the scenario we're going to play this week. Here's the rules, the victory conditions. Here is what realm you're in if we're playing with realm rules, and all of those sorts of things to get your normal match play games. And another good resource, too, is the old Skirmish book, which I believe you can still get it in the electronic copy from the web store or in the app. I don't know if it's still actually available in print anymore, but there were scenarios in there that were on 4x4 boards, which I definitely recommend for Path to Glory, playing on a 4x4 instead of a 4x6, just because you're using much smaller armies typically. If you do a long campaign, you might get up to 1,500 points in your list, but it's a good chance that you're going to be rolling with, under 1,000 for a long time. Anyway, getting back on topic. So you choose your champion. That tells you how many followers you get, how many additional units you get. From there, you can either choose or roll whatever you guys decide to do, and figure out what other units are going to be in your starting warband. Now, this is going to be all of your generic stuff from your battle tome, anything that's not unique. And sometimes things will appear more than once in a table. For example, one of the tables has Plague Bearers 4 times on a D6 table. There's ways to get additional heroes on the tables as well. And then you're going to have some elite choices that will count as basically as 2 units. Now, how you go through the campaign in general after you've got your starting warband going, you play your games, however you choose to do scenarios. And for each game that you play, the loser gets 1 glory point. The winner gets D3 glory, and if they get a 1, they get to reroll. So the glory is ultimately like how you determine the winner, but you can also use it as a resource to spend it to get more elite choices for additional units, and as well as being able to reroll on your rewards charts. So after you play a game, you get your glory. If you win, you roll for how much glory you're going to get from your win. Then you roll for your rewards, and it's another D3 roll. On a 1, you get additional followers, so you get to pick an additional unit to add to your army. And then you have your champions rewards on a 2 and your followers rewards on a 3. And that just refers you over to other tables in the Path to Glory section. Your champions rewards, those are going to basically be like almost like extra artifacts that you're adding onto your general. And then the fun thing is the follower rewards. You get to get special abilities and extra rules, extra bonuses for other units in your army. So that's really a fun, interesting, different thing. It's almost like putting artifacts on units. So each time you play a game, you're adding something new. Even if you lose, you're rolling the die, you're adding a new unit, you're adding followers, you're adding champion rewards, follower rewards, whatever you happen to roll. Now, I will tell you that on the champion rewards table, there are some negatives potentially in there. You can lose glory, you can have your hero get killed, you can do all sorts of things. In our leagues, what we do is if you get a negative reward for your champion, we just re-roll it, because who wants something bad to happen? You want to have fun, so we just re-roll the negative rewards if you happen to get one. And that's basically it. You go from game to game, you slowly build up your warband, whether you're adding units to it or powering up your champion or powering up additional units that you already have in your army after each game. So you're going to slowly build up your army. You only have a 1 in 3 chance of adding more models to your army after each game. So it's a slow grow. What's definitely fun is that your initial games, when you're first starting out your warbands, first starting out your campaign, the games go really quickly because you're playing with maybe 500 points, a couple of units on usually a relatively basic scenario. So the games go really fast. There's not a lot to move around. There's not a lot of rules interactions. It's a small scale game. So you rip through games really quickly. And this kind of gets into the why do you play Path to Glory other than it's fun? From a getting good at Warhammer perspective, you get to test out your units. You get to test everything, or whatever you want to test. You get to actually put it on the table, field test it in a situation where, it's a Path to Glory league. It's not the end of the world if things don't work out well. So you get to see what do these things actually do? It goes from, the theory hammer that we all do in our list building to actually putting it on the table and seeing what these things do. It is, one thing that I've found recently are Puscoil Blight Lords. Like, most people are kind of down on them, and I've personally been finding use for them recently. I've had really good results with them. But, you may roll up your Puscoil Blight Lords if you're playing Nurgle in a campaign, and you get to actually test them out and see what they do in a battle. And you might, if you're playing like a 2,000 point game, match play, and you're putting a list together, that's going to take like 3 hours to play that game. You might not want to invest a 3-hour game in seeing what Puscoils do. So this kind of gives you an excuse to experiment with things, use artifacts you don't usually use, use command traits you don't usually use. And these things are very narrative. So if you want to choose things that are more narrative rather than more competitive, it'll create some fun, interesting things. And you can kind of build up like the story of your champion, the story of your warband as you're going along through this. That's the kind of narrative that I personally really enjoy. All the fluff is kind of one thing. I like to forge my own personal narrative for the games that I'm playing and the army that I'm playing. Having like that one unit or that one hero that, it always rolls bad. It always rolls good. It's really good at this one thing. It never dies. Like my Great Unclean one basically never dies. He needs to get a name at some point because he's a house. I like him. In my Cities of Sigmar army, formerly Free Guild, formerly Empire, my old Free Guild general on horseback, I had named General Disappointment because he always was a disappointment in combat. No matter what I did, what artifact I put on him, what command trait I put on him, always bad. Like, he just, if I sent him into combat, he died and did nothing. So this is a cool way to kind of like build that narrative for your own army, get a feel for what different units do, and just have fun. Get a lot of games in, get a lot of reps in. It is fantastic for new players because you're starting off with a small number of units. And, escalation leagues a lot of times are like you're adding another 250 points every week. This is like you're adding one box of models maybe every other week, depending on how many games you're getting in, which is a lot easier of like an investment. Like 250 points is a lot, but one box of models, not a lot, right? So you can slowly build up rather than committing to this rapid army expansion, getting up to 2,000 points. And I see rerolling ones, Jack, in the chat. Yes. Also a lover of Path to Glory. I am really excited to do another Path to Glory League. And I'm sorry the light is like totally blowing me out right now. I'm in my basement. I tried to shut off all of my basement lights to not get like lens flare like I'm getting right now. But then I have windows that are there as well. So I'll just try and sit here and be in the way of that blinding sunlight and just keep chatting about Path to Glory. And yeah, your slaughter priest, Jack, that Cordrell the Unworthy, because he always failed his prayers. Yeah, like that is like exactly the sort of thing that happens in Path to Glory or in a lot of your games in general. Like you're going to have something that's just like, it kind of gets like a reputation with you. Like, oh, this thing is good, but it just like always doesn't It always rolls below what it's supposed to, or it every time I roll the dice for this thing, it does exactly what I want it to do. No questions asked. It's just bam right there. So that is really kind of like the basics of Path to Glory. As I said, I'm going to be doing a Path to Glory League coming up. I am, depending on what the audience feedback is like on doing this, it's going to kind of guide how much coverage I do on it. Initially I'm going to do a video right after this one where I roll up my starting warband for the campaign. I wanted to kind of do that separate from the what the hell is Path to Glory video, so that people could kind of go back and just see what is Path to Glory, and then have the campaign separate from that. So I'm thinking of doing some battle reports, recording, what all of my all of my rolls on the rewards tables are, what units I'm adding, what buffs my units and champion are getting. How exactly I do that, it's going to depend on, viewer feedback. So not exactly sure how I'm going to start out. I might just do like a summary at the end of the day, because, there's a good number of people in our local group. So, I mean, the first night I might get like 5 games in, or more. It depends. As the league progresses, then you're going to get games are going to take a little bit longer. But when you're playing like your starting warband, you're not going to take long to play a game. Just a quick story of, how this oddly balances itself out. One of the players in our last league, he was playing Iron Jaws, and he took a Maw Crusher as his champion and just had 1 unit of pigs as his followers in his starting warband. And he got stuck there for a long time. But what happened is he kept getting champion reward after champion reward after champion reward. By like week 3 of the campaign, that Maw Crusher was just an unstoppable bowling ball. It would just roll through everybody. It was absolutely unbelievable. And his unit of pigs kept getting bonuses. And then when he started actually getting follower rewards, he rolled more pigs and just added them to the existing unit so that they got the buffs as well. So he had this really small warband in terms of points, but it had like every buff in the universe. So it was just this unstoppable force. And he had given the Maw Crusher the ethereal amulet to start off as well. So you had this ethereal mega boss on Maw Crusher that was, I think it had like speed bonuses. I think it had extra wounds. It had all the stuff from the book. It was bananas. And I don't think I ever actually killed the stupid thing. I'm not sure if anybody in the campaign ever killed the stupid thing. It was a lot of fun because it was just a charge. He was just going to charge forward and smash you and worry about the scenario objectives later. So it started being this like meta game of like really it mattered like how you deployed, what units you put where, how you're going to respond to that charge across the table that was about to come. And it's really interesting because I was getting to a point where I had, for some reason in that campaign, I just kept rolling additional followers, additional units to add to my warband. So I had a huge warband, but like nobody was buffed up. It was all just basic guys, just the standard war scrolls. So I would be sitting there across from him with like 3 times as many points on the table as him, but his Maw Crusher was just unstoppable and would just table me, even though he had that many more points than I did. So the Path to Glory tables really do add an interesting sense of balance into the game, even though, you're not using points. It's, some things, the number of rolls something is compared to its points may seem out of whack sometimes, but after you get a few games in, everything kind of balances itself out. And just like the points in Age of Sigmar aren't a perfect balancing mechanism, I think it's close enough, and it's close enough to have fun. And I think the biggest thing with Path to Glory is that it's just a fun way to play Age of Sigmar. It's a good way to get people to come regularly for your local game nights. It's a good way to get a lot of games in, experiment with things, get new players getting games in. Like, we have a player locally that is just getting into Age of Sigmar. He has about 1,000 points right now. And he's been having trouble getting games. Because unbeknownst to him, we have a Facebook chat group that is where we're all kind of organizing our games for our, weekly game night. And he wasn't in it, and none of us realized he wasn't in it. So he was always having trouble getting a game, and would just kind of hang out and talk to people and watch games. So, now with this campaign coming up, he's going to be able to join in that and get a ton of games in, where before he was, struggling to find anybody to play, and also if you only have 1,000 points, a lot of people don't really want to play 1,000-point game for whatever reason. People are just attuned to 2,000 points. The other cool thing that you can do with Path to Glory is when you have a limited amount of time to play a game, it's a good way to just set up a quick game that is close enough. You just pick a starting warband, just kind of use those rules, just get a starting warband set up, and you just face off with your opponent, and whatever happens. It's a quick and dirty way to just say, we're going to have a quick, fun game. Throw your starting warbands together, have at it, and you don't necessarily have to do a campaign. It's easier than saying oh, we're going to make a 500-point list and play against each other. As I said, the tables are pretty balanced, close enough against each other. And in small point games, it's a crapshoot anyway, because the game is in no way balanced to that kind of point level. It's definitely balanced to 2,000. So wacky things happen at low point levels, which is where a lot of your Path to Glory games are going to be happening. So anyway, that is the basics on Path to Glory. I hope everybody out there gives it a shot if they haven't before. You can do this with as many other people as you want to, really. Even if it's you and one of your friends and you just want to do a campaign together, it's a good way to just kind of have something regular that you're doing. At this point, there was a Path to Glory campaign book. And it was sort of like a placeholder for a while for a lot of armies that didn't have books yet. And it had all of the tables in there for all of the different factions. So whatever army you had, even if you didn't have a book, you had Path to Glory tables in that book. And there were also some missions in there as well. It would be great, as Jack said in the comments, to get a new book with new Path to Glory scenarios in it. Maybe update some of the charts. But at this point, with the Seraphon book coming out, that book is totally obsolete except for the scenarios. And that is, it's only really useful for the missions at this point. Because all of the different armies all have the Path to Glory tables in their own battle tomes. So with that, I think that's about all I've really got on basic Path to Glory missions right now. So feel free to leave any questions you have about Path to Glory down in the comments. I hope I kind of covered everything on like the basics of Path to Glory campaigns. You have the rules for Path to Glory in all of your battle tomes, just the basics of, how do you pick your warband? How do you set up a campaign? What are some of your options? So with that, I will sign off. I'll see you all later.